Hi everyone, welcome to Black Equity. Today's video is going to be a really exciting one because it's a question that I get asked a lot on Instagram, and that is how to get started flipping houses. This video is not going to talk about how to flip a house, but I'm actually going to talk about the things that you need to put in place before you buy your very first property. So let's jump into it. Prior to doing any of the following, I do want to mention that there are a lot of real estate strategies and flipping is just one of the strategies. So before you start following these steps, you need to determine what strategy that you're going to take. If you've determined that flipping is your chosen real estate strategy, then let's go ahead with step one. Location, location, location. So you want to flip a house. Great. Where do you want to flip? The location that you choose is the most important part of your real estate strategy. Every real estate market is different, so you'll have to determine the location where you will be doing your very first flip. I determined my location based off of two things. The first thing was affordability, and the second thing was proximity. So let's jump into those two things a little bit deeper. So as a newbie, the very best place to flip, in my opinion, is where you live. And I'm not talking about the country, I'm talking about down to the city, or even if you can flip the house next door, do it. And the reason why I say this is because when you're just starting off, you don't have any processes in place yet, so you'll need to be on site frequently, and I mean a couple of times a day. And if you're having to commute to where you flip, the chances are you're not going to be there as much as you need to be, and you won't be able to keep an eye on things like you should be doing. So if you can, you need to be very close to where you flip. My very first flip was 10 minutes away from where I live. The second thing is affordability. If you're just starting off and you don't have a lot of capital like most newbie real estate investors, then you'll need to choose a place based off of where you can actually afford or where you can get enough capital to put into a flip. If you live in Toronto and you have $10,000 in your account and that's all you have to do a flip, you can do the calculations. Like the math will not mathin. What? The math will not add. You don't need an expert to determine that you can't afford that. So you'll need to go to a place, or you'll need to find a place where your $10,000 is actually worth a lot or can go a lot further. And this brings me to point number two. Dollar bills. So determine how much you can afford. If you don't have the cash to pay for a property outright, then there are multiple ways that you can fund your very first flip. I'll talk about 3 ways, but understand that these 3 ways are not a comprehensive list of how to fund a property. The first thing that you can do is to get a conventional mortgage, and this is what I got for my flips. A conventional mortgage means that you go to a bank or a mortgage broker and they determine your eligibility based off of your income and your savings and other things like that. Once they do that, they'll give you a certain amount that you can purchase, but affordability is not just taking that amount and running with it. So for example, if they tell you you can afford to buy an $800,000 home, it doesn't mean that you should go and look for an $800,000 home to buy, because you need to understand that with a mortgage comes the carrying costs and other costs that are associated with the flip outside of the rehab costs. So it would make sense if you looked at your finances and determined how much that you can carry on a monthly basis while the flip is going on and how much you are comfortable with. And that will really guide you into the exact amount of purchase that you want to make. The second way to afford a property is through hard money loans. Now, a traditional mortgage has its pros and its cons, but if you see that things aren't really working with the traditional side, then you can look into hard money lenders. Hard money lenders are more flexible in terms of how they determine how much they want to give to you, and that's great because you may be able to borrow a lot more with a hard money lender than with a traditional mortgage. However, they make up for this kindness with the interest rates, and you'll find that a hard money loan has a lot higher interest rates, and the terms of the loan are usually a lot shorter than a traditional or conventional mortgage. But the qualification process is a lot more relaxed. If your first flip is going to be a very quick and a simple flip, like my second was, then a hard money lender may be a good way to go. However, if you're doing a non-traditional flip, or if you're doing a lot of DIY things that will require more time, like my very first flip was, my first flip took a couple of months, then a hard money loan might be very expensive at the end of the day, and you might want to push for a conventional mortgage, or the third option, which is equity partners, which basically means that someone or a group of people give you their money and you work out how much interest or how they will be compensated for putting up the money to purchase the flip. If you go that route, I will say, like I say in most of my videos, have a really good real estate lawyer so that all the terms and all the conditions are very clear and everyone is happy at the end. The worst thing that you want to do is to get into your very first flip and have a number of people breathing down your neck or suing you because you didn't do the right thing. If you go the equity partner route, it's very important that you have a grasp of the numbers that will be involved in the flip, because you will need to convince them of the reason why they should give you the money for this deal. And that brings me to the third and the final point, which is market analysis. So one of the reasons why I suggest flipping in your local community is because it gives you a first-hand insight into the real estate market, and you're able to understand the little things in a community or a city that other people who don't live there might not know. So you'll also realize that when you live in a city, that within that city there are different real estate markets and there are different communities that affect the prices of real estate. So you'll understand that there are some areas where the houses are higher priced and there are other areas that are more up and coming that the houses might be lower priced, and you'll know the types of people that you can find in each of those markets. So when I started, I first of all determined what my end buyer would look like, and I determined that I wanted someone who was a young family with young kids, because I have a young family and I know what that type of person is looking for. So that led me to narrow down the type of houses that I was looking for into a 3-bedroom home in a quiet neighborhood with a good backyard size. I knew that I wasn't going to start looking for condos or any other type of home because that wasn't where my buyer would be looking either. I reached out to real estate agents so that I could start getting comps. Now, comps are what you would use to analyze the market. I narrowed the houses down into specific neighborhoods, and I narrowed them down by that such criteria. So a 3-bedroom home, 1 bath or more baths if I could afford that, with a decent backyard space in a good neighborhood. And once I started looking at the comps, I would go through each of the sold properties within the last 3 months before I wanted to purchase, and I would look at the pictures. Now the pictures would let me know whether the house was renovated or whether the house was a fixer-upper. I categorized the homes into these 2 categories because under the unrenovated homes that were fixer-uppers, I could see what prices that they were being sold for. I knew the square footage of the home, the condition of the house. So if it just needed cosmetic renovations, that was one thing, or if it needed extensive renovations, that was another thing. So I could see what those homes sold for, and then I also looked at the homes that were renovated and I could see what those homes sold for. And the difference in price, so for example, if there is a $100,000 difference between a home that's not renovated and the home that is renovated, that difference in price is what you'll use to determine whether this makes sense as a good area to flip. The question is, can you do the renovations? Can you have the holding costs and still make a good profit within that $100,000? That's really what you'll need to know before you determine whether it's a really good flip. In an upcoming video, I will be talking about how to determine the renovation costs, how to determine your profit margins and your holding costs, because I think that's really important in knowing what type of house to look for and what type of house to go with a flip. If you like these types of videos, do me a favor, like it, share it, subscribe to my channel, join me on Instagram. I love having conversations with you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Till next time, see you guys. Bye.